All right, guys, another episode of the Growth by Shawn podcast. Josh Powers and I have decided once a month you're going to hear from us collectively. So I think the best way to just start this so that people get a better understanding of like our relationship as we continue forward. How was your week?
Um, Dude, it's been solid. You know, I think like the pendulum of life swings, and
Hmm.
even when you try to live in this mindset of being positive and focusing on the good things, there's still like this lingering past energy that kind of settles that's there that comes up. So I think this week for me, it's been learning to hold space for that energy that
Hmm.
doesn't feel like everything's okay
Hmm.
and just accepting like, okay, everything I don't feel like everything's okay right now, and that's okay. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? And just
yeah.
allowing it to like kind of feel what it's feeling. I've been doing that a little bit this week,
Hmm.
not so high energy, gung ho, go, 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 more so just really level, really content, and just trying to find a strive like in that contentness.
Yeah. The way that I've always perceived that is to zoom out a little bit. And there's these buckets of life where my main three buckets I think that the majority of people have is wealth, health, and relationships. And during the specific season of life, you're always going to be able to pour into different buckets more than another. If you want to make it just like, and as you continue to pour into them, you'll build a higher baseline, right? If you focus on the gym and healthy eating habits for a year and you put relationships and wealth on the back burner just a little bit, you'll build this new baseline of health where now instead of going like you can do less with more and it's more a part of your identity where you don't have to focus on that as much. Then you can start to focus on the other two buckets. Um, and with like the season of life that you're in, I think it's important too because you we oftentimes want to have everything. A great quote that I love is that you can have it all, you just can't have it all at once. It's going to be difficult, at least in my point of view, to make the most amount of money you've ever made, to have the best body you've ever had, but also give into um like pour into every single relationship that you have as well. There's going to be different areas of focus. If you're focused on wealth and you're working 15, 16-hour days and you're sacrificing sleep a little bit, it's going to be hard to focus on health to your maximum because you're not even getting 8 hours of sleep. So how can that bucket be full?
Yeah.
And then same thing with relationships. If you want to spend 2 hours a day with your kids, okay, well, that's 2 hours that you're not working. That's 2 hours that you're not in the gym or meal prepping, XYZ. And so just finding a balance of those three buckets and realizing the season that you're in. And then like my final thoughts, just with like where you're at and like the the old patterns. It's weird because I was actually going to make a post about this today where we have this present moment and this is all we have. And oftentimes, like our past self, we it's already happened. So we already have this bias of if this is what's already happened, this is what will happen again. And we cling on to these old identities and we pull our present back into the past versus the the catalyst for change is seeing that like future and the future version and how do we pull that future version into the present.
Yeah.
So every single moment how you do one thing is how you do everything and what would the future you do, and as you continue to do it, the first time it will be difficult. After you've done it 100 times, it'll be a little less difficult. After you do it 1,000 times, you build that more into your identity, and it makes it easier to see who you're able to become that future version and pull that into the present, and then have that come into reality.
Yeah, for sure, man. For sure. That's good stuff right there, Sean. And to add to that a little bit, like I think we talk about, the future version of who we want to be a lot. And in this week, I've noticed the importance of not necessarily getting stuck on the past,
Mhm.
but like I was saying, just creating space for it in the time that it's time to create space for it. I'll find myself throughout the day, like it'll start coming up and it'll start nagging a little bit. And, I'm like pushing it away. And I think we talked about this a little bit last week,
Mhm.
but it's like, what I've noticed is, when I focus my attention, like I plan to hear that voice and to go back into the past and to really hear, what it's trying to say. What I'm noticing is it's like it's the wisdom that's trying to take me there
Hmm.
sometimes. It's not always the scared voice. Sometimes it's the
Mhm.
wisdom saying, "Hey, let's go back and revisit this scar tissue that's been created so you
Mm.
can remember what caused this wound that's now a scar." So as
Mhm.
you're going and moving into this future self, you're paying attention to these scar tissues and this wisdom that's been built into who you are now as you're stepping into the man that you're becoming. So I think creating like space and time to at least visit that, and with the intentions of how do I do this in the future without causing the same pain, can be
Mm.
useful.
Yeah. Yeah. That's especially with the scar tissue and the wounds, um, everything of that nature. And I don't want to spend like too much time on this. I want to start to frame our conversation that we're about to have.
Yeah.
But a great quote that I've always learned to live by that's been helpful for me, I don't know if it will be helpful for you or the audience here, is you share the scars, you don't share the wounds necessarily,
Mm,
especially when you're just not necessarily like a relationship that we have where we're able to share a lot of the things that we're going through,
yeah.
but especially to like the public where this can help us transition into the social media world and AI and where we're going to frame this conversation. But when you're going and sharing what you're going through to everyone, it can be difficult versus like that's the wound. That's the open, you're still hurting, navigating, learning versus the scar where you've already taken the lessons and it's easier to share and showcase what you've learned from that scar as opposed to the wound.
Absolutely. That's good. Yep.
Yeah. So to help the listeners just frame the conversation of where we're going today, we're going to talk about AI and artificial intelligence, really just how like where the world may be going with it and where we're currently at. So AI launched on November 30th, 2022. So we're coming up on we're a little over a year here. And this was the fastest that any platform has made it to 1 million users, which is crazy to think about. Like you have Instagram, Facebook, all of these different things, Snapchat, like all these social media aspects, they start to blow up. And this is the fastest one, and it's the fastest growing. And even in like February 2024, when we're talking about this, we still have so much that we don't know about it. So
Yes.
I think a great place to start is when AI came out to where you are at, what has your not necessarily relationship been with it, but how have you utilized AI thus far, either in your personal or professional life? And let's just start there.
Sure. I get real excited about this conversation. For me, when it comes to my personal time and I'm not reading for growth or whatever, like I'm usually into science fiction, usually something around space exploration or, futuristic events. Like the little boy inside of me absolutely loves that sense of adventure. And for me, I think the reason AI grew so quickly is because it is that. It's so unique. It's so when you think about space exploration, or even, back in the day when the pilgrims were coming here to America, and, like there was all of these lands that were still open to be explored, to go and like discover, to like take claim of, and all of these things, like there was something about that exploration that that makes me really excited. And I feel like in our culture, in our world today, we don't have that. So, there's not a lot of avenues where we can really step into that kind of exploration where it's like a new frontier, something fresh, something
Mm.
new. And, in business, I think the reason why a lot of people are attracted to becoming entrepreneurs is because it is a little bit of that exploration, that stepping
Mhm.
into the unknown, that trying to discover, that trying to take claim of this blue ocean, this new idea. But what I love about AI is it's so fresh, it's so new, it's so unique, it's so different, and it's capable of so much more than we can even grasp at this moment, that
Mhm.
it's like space exploration. Like there's an unlimited universe to go and travel and discover that we are attempting to do, but now we have this thing called AI sitting in front of us, machine learning, that has opened up this blue ocean of so much potential that we haven't even grasped yet. So I think for me, that's why I get so excited about this topic, is because the little kid in me is like, yeah, let's explore, let's discover. How can we, use this tool that's available to us? But
Yeah. So how has it shown up and how have you just started to utilize it within your own business?
yeah, so it started with something as simple as Chat GPT, and for me, I started using it, I think the same way that everyone uses it, like it's almost intimidating at first,
Mhm.
it's like, okay, what is this? And like, how can I really use it within my business? So for me, I started using it for things like emails and content creation, for like the bodies of content creation. And I even started exploring, playing around with like songwriting and story writing, and all these different concepts. And I learned very quickly in doing that the it's a tool. You can't go to it and just say, hey, this is what I want, and it
Mhm.
just delivers this beautiful thing that you want. Like at the end of the day, we are still the consciousness behind the tool. So
Mhm.
like it takes us guiding it and directing it to get the outcome that we want. And one of the things, what people call this is prompt engineering,
Mhm.
and it's one of the things that I've been studying a lot recently. But I started by using it for my emails. It really helped me to like step up my game in that arena. I felt like my emails were very basic because I was always in such a hurry. So like my ability to have like really great customer service and to like feel like I'm giving my full attention to my clients, I'm able to use Chat GPT to like but through the correct prompts, I'm able to use it to develop an email that expresses what's on my heart and what I'm trying to share in a way that's extremely clear for my clients. And when they're receiving those emails, they're feeling heard, they're feeling cared for, and it's really given me the ability to be able to step up my game in the customer service realm for that. um,
Hmm.
Besides the emails, there's content creation,
Mhm.
and even on the creative side of things, like when it comes to story writing, I love writing stories and I love being creative, and I feel like, there's days where I wake up where the inspiration is just flowing and I'm having these like aha moments, these revelations that are like this compilation of like all these different things I've been experiencing, that finally like my head and my heart cohered, and it's like, oh, I get it. And
Mhm.
like I turn that into literature, to express that in a way that could help the people that are within my community or my tribe, or paying attention. And what's been beautiful about AI is, again, you can't go in there and just say, hey, this is what I dreamed last night, write something for me. You know what I mean? I
Yep.
mean, you can, but it doesn't feel authentic. And I think your
Mhm.
audience can see that. But what's beautiful is you write what's on your heart. You express the mood that you want to portray. It's like a paintbrush, Chat GPT. It's like
Mhm.
you're the artist and it's your paintbrush, and you're like choosing the colors that you want, you're choosing the brushes that you want, you're picking out the canvas, like you're creating all of this within ChatGPT. When you're making creating these prompts with your content and you're doing it paragraph by paragraph and working with this tool to create this beautiful paragraph that gets across exactly what's in your head in a much better way, and I wouldn't even, maybe not even better, but in a more efficient way,
Hmm.
to get your point across. And you're able to put these together and play around with it until you have this page that is like, wow, like I'm so grateful to have this tool that I was able to utilize to create this beautiful content that I get to share with my audience now. It's just
Hmm.
like like I said, it's the new canvas. It's the new art form, if you will. Even when it comes to literature, it's a tool that we get to use and utilize to express ourselves more clearly.
Hmm. I'm glad that you have already prefaced that you need to prompt the correct thoughts in order for you to have the concise, efficient, like facts or email or content spew out to you, right? And so I think my main concern with AI is we are a generation that needs connection and culture more than anything. And so, with all the advancements of where AI is already and where it's going, how are we going to be able to keep the human connection component and not just make it so that everything is done for us?
Dude, I'm so excited that you asked this question. I love this topic. Okay. So how do I start with this? First and foremost, I believe that we live basically in this virtual reality, if you will.
Hmm.
Quantum physics is proving that if a human isn't, if our consciousness that's inside of this house isn't observing what's happening around us, the particles turn to waves. They literally
Hmm.
don't exist.
Hmm.
It's through our observation that they're real. And
Hmm.
guess what? Artificial intelligence is part of that particle that isn't real unless we're here observing it. It doesn't have consciousness, nor do I think we'll ever be
Hmm.
able to. Consciousness comes from a realm that's not physical.
Hmm.
So we're never going to be able to create consciousness artificially, at least in my opinion. Like, I don't
Hmm.
think it's possible in the realm that we live in. Now, we can create intelligence all day, but that intelligence needs direction from consciousness, which is us. And it doesn't exist if we're not here to witness it, if you will.
Hmm.
So when I think AI ultimately is going to elevate and bring humanity closer. And there's two sides of the coin. There's a pendulum, and I want to get into some of that pendulum stuff and
Hmm.
the beauty in it. But I think there's ultimately we control the prompts, we control what we're saying, and we're
Hmm.
using AI to more clearly express
Hmm.
ourselves and to get our points across. Because you think about the American culture and where we are as a culture. When you go back to the Hebrew language that was so massive, and when you wrote it out, it's full of symbols and pictures and words that combine together, and paragraphs mean something different than the sentences, and it all comes together as this beautiful, like, puzzle, if you will.
Hmm.
And the English language, the Hebrew language had, I don't know, it's more than 10 words for love. So
Hmm.
when you're expressing that emotion, you have the correct word to really say like the energy behind that love. And I feel like now we just say love, you know what I
Hmm.
mean?
Hmm.
And so I feel like we have a hard time expressing ourselves in the culture, like the real deep parts of who we are, because
Hmm.
we're limited by our knowledge of language. And I think AI is going to help us to be able to express ourselves more and to recreate that platform of language that we don't have access to right now. I'll tell you this, man, through using AI in my writing, my vocabulary has expanded a lot. Like, when I'm out in the world and I'm having conversations, because of the work that I've been doing with ChatGPT, my language has expanded and my ability to have conversations that feel elevated has expanded because of the tool that's helping guide me and teach me as I'm using it as my paintbrush.
Hmm. So there's a lot to cover here. So as I was preparing for this as well, like it doesn't necessarily go along like with what you were saying in terms of like AI, but I was doing some continued education earlier today, and I think this would just be helpful for the audience. So There's three parts of your mind: the conscious, subconscious, and unconscious. And the conscious mind can take in 126 bits of information at a time. All right. We distort the rest, where the subconscious can interpret 105 million bits of information at a time. Think of it when you're sitting down watching TV and you've got an air conditioner on, and then 15 minutes later, you no longer hear the air conditioner. You're no longer aware in your conscious mind of the air conditioner. It's because your conscious mind can only take in so much at a time. And that is something that has just become a part of your environment. Not necessarily like that doesn't necessarily like go into the realm of like where we're going with this conversation, but I think it's just some useful knowledge that people can be aware of. So,
And I
and it
think
was
it
just,
does. I think it
yeah,
does. I think that goes right with the
okay,
theme. Good.
okay. And then, so I love that I'm going to be able to just like have some pushback with you here. So for someone like you, you've been able to utilize AI, but then you have brought that and integrated it into your own vocabulary, your own language, and it has expanded you.
Yes.
Where I think the issue becomes a lot of people are not going to do that. I think the majority of people will not integrate it. They're going to use it as more of a crutch in a sense, where they're going to fire off 100 DMs or 100 emails using AI. But then when they're on a call, all right, if they're face to face like we are, I think what's going to happen is there's going to be more of a disgenuine connection because they were using XYZ in their vocabulary and it was so efficient. But then when it comes to their like face to face, let's say sales call, they're so much different that I think it's going to turn the buyer off. Do you agree with that? Or do you think that people will start to integrate it?
I don't think people are going to have a choice.
Hmm.
Um, Energetically, the exchange has to match. I mean, it's just the laws of the
Mm-hmm.
universe.
Yeah.
And what you're saying, the authenticity of that experience isn't going to allow people to be able to not integrate it the proper way. So think about the internet and social media and the growth and how that's become a part of everyone's life. And it took time to get there. You know what I mean? There was a lot of issues, there was a lot of hiccups, there's a lot of things that we're still figuring out about it. And I
Mm-hmm.
think as you know, in the next 5 to 10 years, there's going to be businesses and people that are using AI that are successful, and the others are going to start fading away. Like it's a part of our future, whether we like it or not at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And I think as we begin stepping into AI, and this was my experience, like I went
Mm-hmm.
full circle on this. I was doing the authentic things like you're
Mm-hmm.
talking about and using it as a crutch.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned at first, the first couple weeks of doing that, it felt good, like it was working. But ultimately, even me energetically, it started feeling like you have your throat chakra that wants
Mm-hmm.
to express itself. You know what I mean? And my throat chakra was losing all of its sense of expression because of the AI. So I couldn't stay complacent there. And also, the people that I was working with at that point, when I started feeling that lack of expression, it just started feeling kind of icky and weird. So
Mm-hmm.
that's when I went full circle and I was like, this is a very valuable tool. So like, let me view this through a new lens. It's not a crutch. It's
Mm-hmm.
a tool to help me express me, the authentic me, better than I've been able
Mm-hmm.
to do before it was here. So I think ultimately, yes, there's going to be some of those growing pains when people begin to integrate it in their lives and use it as a crutch. But just like, I'm in the construction industry. So just like the flippers who come in and start trying to flip houses and just do a shoddy job don't last very long. It's going to be the same thing as we integrate this. And some of those people that were doing a shoddy job are now great investors because they went through the process and did the shoddy job, had the energy exchange between that caused them to fail, and then took that experience and re-implemented it back into the flipping world to now being successful. And I think, like I said, we're going to have some of those growing pains with AI, but it won't be able to keep us for long. The energy just won't sustain it for longer longer than a year or two, honestly, in my opinion. So,
Hmm. Now, I understand where you're coming from there, but let me put out some examples in terms of I want both sides of the conversation here. I think
yeah,
that's the most important thing that we can always do collectively.
yep,
So, even with social media now, we've integrated it, right? But there are still people that hide behind, and there's only like the highlight reel of it. It's something that we've all heard of and are accustomed to, who's telling the truth, who's not. And I think that with AI, people will be able to do this, hide behind AI at even a larger scale level. I'm gonna
yep,
so something that I'll share here. David had told us about he had told me a story. I'm not sure about yourself, but there was someone that was making like 20 grand a month or something, but he was also spending 20 grand a month in ad spend. And so he was just breaking even, but he had a like waterfront, um, a waterfront view from an apartment. He was spending 6 grand on the apartment, like from the outside, living a very lavish lifestyle, but at the end of the day wasn't actually bringing in money, just breaking even every single month. And it was something where he's able to hide behind just the small snippets of what you see. So
yep,
I think that even more people are going to be able to hide behind AI.
yep,
Do you agree? I mean, there's always going to have people that will hide behind it, or there's going to be people that integrate it. I understand both sides, but
yep,
I'm thinking that there will be even more people that hide behind it than decide to integrate it.
yep. And I agree with you. And I think there are two ways to view the hide behind portion of this. Again, number one, how long do you think this guy that's making $20,000 a month and also spending $20,000 a month is going to be able to sustain that lifestyle?
It's hard. I mean, I think he had said that it was at least 9 to 12 months that he had been doing this.
Yeah,
Not a crazy amount of time in terms of like your lifespan, but to have a business of like just breaking even and putting on a front for an entire year, like that's a long time and that takes a lot of energy,
it does.
you know?
And and who are we to say that this guy didn't need to experience this on his journey here on this earth by
That's
living
true.
that sort of lifestyle, hiding behind those things to realize at the end that it's not sustainable.
That's
And
true.
now, guess what? He goes back into the world with that wisdom and does it differently. And there's
Mhm.
going to have to be a generation of people as we come into this that are going to be that test dummy that
Mhm.
hides behind it, that tries to use it that way, but they're never going to feel satisfied and it's not going to be sustaining. And I'm not saying that there's not going to be people who hide behind it their entire lives for their children to realize that it doesn't
Mhm.
work, like
Yeah.
sometimes that's what it takes. But I think ultimately, as we get to the other side of these growing pains, living a life where you're hiding behind the AI isn't going to be sustainable. So it's going to be do one of two things. It's going to break people that are hiding behind it, and they're going to
Mhm.
feel, worthless when it's all said and done. And I think ultimately both of these people will do that. But it's just like anything else, like with the construction business that I had that failed.
Mhm.
You know, I spent, a year depressed and
Mhm.
scared to go back into the world again. But that pain and that suffering couldn't hold me because curiosity became stronger than the pain. And
Mhm.
now I get to re-enter into the workforce in the same industry with this knowledge that caused me the pain the first time around. That wisdom is there. And I think when we dive into artificial intelligence I honor that guy and I thank that
Mhm.
guy that he chose to come here on his journey to be the
Mhm.
representation of that and how it does not work for everyone else who's going to be going into this. Like someone had to be the contrast, someone had to be that person to try it. And there's going to be
Mhm.
plenty more behind them that are going to do the same thing. But ultimately, I think at the end of the day, it's going to always be the same thing. People are going to realize that it cannot sustain them, that they can't continue to hide behind it because what I think AI is ultimately going to do, and what I love about AI, is I think it's going to force humanity to reconnect with what makes us different than just our intelligence, which is our consciousness. And I think as people try to use AI as a crutch and hide behind it,
Mhm.
it's going to make it impossible for them to ignore this voice inside of them that is begging for expression again. And I think that is going to be this launching platform where humanity begins to say, okay, we have this tool now that allows us to not have to manufacture so much, like it's doing a lot of the thinking that's taking up our time. It's doing a lot of the work that our energy was put towards. Like, think about this, man. One day we're going to have artificial intelligence and, robots and whatnot that are creating our toilet paper, our
Mhm.
cereal, our products in these factories that human energy was getting put towards in the past.
Mhm.
And all of a sudden, energy is energy, and that's becomes available. So like the cost of those things should go down first and foremost, because we're not
Mhm.
paying people to do it anymore. And all of a sudden, humanity becomes free because we're not focused on manufacturing anymore. We're back to this realm of cultivation. It comes full circle. And one of two things are going to happen with people because of this crutch and the lower cost of living, because we have machines and AI taking care of a lot of the things that we need. They're going to become completely consumed with, virtual reality. It's going to be like the movie Ready Player One,
Yep.
where they're going to get lost in this virtual world, or they're going to say, be so free that they're going to say, okay, what makes me human, what makes me different than artificial intelligence? And they're going to start going into those deeper places again. And
Mhm.
again, I think the people who go down the realm of virtual reality, escaping into that world, it's not going to be sustainable. Like, ultimately, I think this is the swing of the pendulum where we've went so far into this manufactured fake reality that this is the push that's going to take us back to what makes us human again and reconnect us with that the quantum realm, the intelligence that created us. It's going to take humanity back there again, because it's going to free our brain and our energy up to be able to focus on those organic things again, as we begin to cultivate as a species instead of manufacture.
Mm.
um,
Hmm. It's
does that hopefully.
yes, yes, I'm processing.
Yeah,
All right.
sure.
Just taking time.
Mhm.
So because I really want to listen, understand what you're saying, where you're coming from in
Mhm.
order to gear up for the question and the conversation that's going to help the audience the most.
Okay.
So 2024 is going to be a crazy year.
Yeah.
We have, just as you're talking about, we are going through many, many evolutionary shifts right now. We can look at AI, we can look at the political parties, we can look at what we're fighting about, and there are these crazy shifts happening. So people are going to need to be able to adapt, right? And I think that's like the base of what you're getting at and how this is going to evolution revolutionize us in order
Yeah.
to come back to more of a like human nature and elevating our consciousness. So I think what the most helpful question would be is you've touched on the jobs that it's going to be able to replace. But from your understanding, what jobs do you think that this will be able to create? And what skills do you think are going to be the next wave that we're going to need to learn and utilize in order to grow?
Goodness, man. And that's such a blue ocean that
Hmm.
it should excite people. If we can get, ultimately, AI is going to be what we make it. Like,
Hmm.
ultimately, our inner worlds create our reality. So if
Hmm.
we're afraid of AI and we're thinking of this thing that's going to destroy us, then ultimately, it could be that. But like, for me, it comes down to this. Like, it's going to replace certain jobs to free humans up. I personally think that this will free cost of living up some to go down for it to not be such a rat race for the majority of people. Um, oh man, sorry about that. My iPad was
Okay.
recording and the storage is full. So,
That's okay.
but anyways, okay. So back on track to what I was
Hmm.
saying here. So, okay, so the workforce, so it's going to take over jobs, and
Hmm.
that can't be people's focus. It has to be
Hmm.
like, so what is it creating? And what it's creating is the ability for people to be able to express themselves creatively. So
Hmm.
people who learn how to get into AI and do the prompts right, and how to use it to express these creative ideas that are going to be flowing in, this is the next opportunities for people. Like people are going to be getting trained in prompt engineering. People are going to be getting trained in AI and machine learning implementation. Um, and AI is always going to need consciousness to do anything. Like other without consciousness, it's just a bunch of
Hmm.
information. It's just a bunch of algorithms. So now, so people are going to be trained to become the consciousness that powers the tool, and that's the next step. And think about how freeing that is for humanity. Like we've had this workforce of factory workers and this, that, and the other, where people hate going to work every single day. But think of being your job as being the consciousness to something that's so powerful that you can express authentically who you are through it to continue to create and to grow our world. I think it's going to shift everything. Like the workforce as we know it and the job force as we know it is just never going to be the same again.
Hmm.
It's not, again, think about the rat race going away,
Hmm.
and like AI is going to take, and the machines will, as we implement them and use our consciousness to get it where it needs to be, is going to take care of our basic human needs as we're giving it the information that we need to give it to create the things that we need. So it frees humanity up again. So we're not in this rat race of work, 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 do, because our needs are
Hmm.
taken care of. You know what I mean? All of a sudden, everything changes. It opens up an entire new realm for humanity that isn't so focused on industry and manufacturing and growth and all this stuff. It's going to change so much. Like I think the self-help, the personal growth, the spirituality, art, expression, entertainment, like those are the industries that are going to blow up in the future.
Hmm.
um and I think there are industries that are going to come from this that we don't even understand yet. Like they haven't been presented to humanity quite yet because we're not there yet. But
Hmm.
I just think life as we know it and the workforce as we know it and having a job as we know it isn't going to be the same in the next 15-20 years.
Hmm. There's so much to unpack there. And there's so many ways that I want to take this conversation because I agree that things like the self-help space, the spirituality space are going to exponentially grow because it's going to be what people need the most.
Yes.
Here's where I think people as a collective, not necessarily you and I, but people that are in the rat race right now, okay? If they go and lose their job to AI, they're not going to adapt right away because the lowest level of some of the lowest levels of consciousness are shame and scarcity. Shame in losing a job, scarcity from losing a job. Now, before we revolutionize, all right, our like entire monetary system and our basic needs and how they're covered, I think that we're going to put ourselves into a very low vibrational state before we excel because many people are going to be in that scarcity and that shame. And yes, I think that self-expression and who we are as people is going to become something that gets expressed. That can be done through the self-help and through the spirituality space when that's explored. But my issue is that when people are in that low level, people are not Like it's hard to be creative when you're worried if you're going to get to work in time because you don't have enough gas. You're not asking yourself the questions of who am I and how can I be creative today? You're not asking yourself the deeper questions when you're worried about if your water is going to be shut off.
Yep.
So I think that there are parts of like how this revolution will cover basic needs, but at the same time, and just on the other side of it, when we're in such this low vibrational state of we have trouble even meeting our basic needs first, because it's not just going to overlap. It's not just going to be like AI takes over all of these jobs and then rent is covered and food is covered and XYZ. There's going to be shift and shift and shift and shift in order to get there over 15, 20, 30, 50 years, however long it takes, and we don't know. So I think it's going to be hard for us to learn that self-expression while many people are stuck in that shame and scarcity like consciousness.
Okay.
Just curious of your thoughts there.
So many thoughts here. I'm so excited to get into this. Okay. So, Shawn, when you failed, when you were at your lowest point,
Hmm.
where your creative abilities were unaccessible and you were scared, because everything that you're saying right now is a projection of where you've been somewhere in your past. That's why
Hmm.
you feel it. That's why you understand it. When
Hmm.
you were in that place, what did that do for you?
Hmm. Thinking back from it now or in that moment?
Thinking back from it now, let's as you the person you are right now,
Hmm.
considering the truth of what that situation actually brought into your life.
It has definitely helped me grow and become more independent,
Hmm.
but it took time in order to get like that knowledge and that learning now.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
And do you think you would be the man that you are today if you didn't go through the situations that you went through?
Of course not.
Okay. So what my pushback to all of this is,
Hmm.
at the end of the day, whether people want to admit it or not, we create our own realities.
Hmm.
Our brain and our thought processes and what we say we don't want is what we end up getting.
Hmm.
Period. That's how the world works. And the people who were stuck in these thought patterns of how am I going to pay the gas? How am I going to pay the rent? How am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? Yes, there's going to be a low frequency in humanity for a lot of those people for a little while. And
Hmm.
I think we're seeing a lot of forerunners for this in our generation now.
Hmm.
People who are here and now who have already went through that low vibration state for themselves.
Hmm.
What it's done is it's made us start asking, it forced us to start asking the deeper questions, because living in that pain, living in that shame, living in that scarcity, living in all of that led me to like looking at a gun in my drawer and wanting to end it all. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like I've been at that point and at that place. And because of that, it's forced me to ask those deeper questions of can I live a life where I don't have to feel this way, no matter what's happening around me? And because of that, this is why I think the self-help and the growth and
Hmm.
spirituality and all that's going to blow up, because in those low places where people aren't comfortable, right now people are comfortable with table scraps. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? We live in a culture that is just comfortable with table scraps and they're happy to live there. When they're not getting those table scraps anymore, they're going to be forced to start asking those deeper questions when they get out of that comfort zone. And yes, it's going to be painful and there's going to be growing pains, but it will
Hmm.
force humanity to start asking those bigger, deeper questions, which is going to lead us back to the spirituality, to the self
Hmm.
help, to the growth, all the things that we need to do. And of course, there's going to be the people who turn to escapism and go
Hmm.
deeper into whatever their drug of choice is until
Mhm.
they're no longer here. Like
Mhm.
that's just humanity. There's contrast in everything.
Mhm.
But the mass majority of people, with the information that's going to be coming out from people who already went through the low frequency and suffered through it
Mm.
and have started working their way back up by cultivating our thought patterns and our neural pathways, now humanity is actually creating something that matters again because we're taking care of our brain and our thought patterns. We're forced to at that point. Like we have to face it at that point. And I think
Mm.
that's the pendulum that's swinging right now. We're like getting to that tipping point where
Mhm.
it's going to get really tough and then
Yep.
we'll start swinging back this way again.
Mm.
And it's going to take everyone losing their freaking job and being
Mm.
forced to change their thought patterns to begin creating abundance in their life again by cultivating and not taking the table scraps of this manufactured world that we live
Mm.
in. I mean, hopefully this is making sense.
Yeah, this is making sense. This is phenomenal. I
Yeah.
think where I'm coming from with all of this, and especially like how I framed the conversation just from one aspect that I'm portraying here, is that I think it's going to take longer than we think. Like we're in that pendulum swing, right? And I think AI is just evolving at such a fast rate where in 2, 3, 4, 5 years we're gonna be able to go through this huge revolution. But in terms of like the state of consciousness, I think it's gonna take a longer time
Yep.
um to
And
evolve.
at the end of the day, it's going to take however long it needs to take.
Yeah.
I ultimately believe that God, our higher self, the universe, the intelligence that created everything
Hmm.
is constantly working for us.
Mm.
And whether we believe it or not, even our suffering, there's something deep inside of us that wants to get to the next level. And
Hmm.
we keep circling this mountain until we climb up to a level and circle and climb up to a level. And we circle until we're willing to let go of something. Okay.
Mm.
Because we're holding on to dear life to things that make us feel safe and secure because we're so afraid of the unknown and in not having. So this forces us to not have is what I'm saying. So it forces us to begin leveling up, and it will take time, and it'll take
Hmm.
exactly the amount of time that it's supposed to take. But I'm never going to be a sounding board for problems when it comes to AI. Like I'm finding the path of least resistance and I'm helping people to figure out what they want out of their lives and how to use
Hmm.
the tools to get there. And then we're finding the path of least resistance and
Hmm.
we're good positive narratives and stories for what's coming next, even
Hmm.
partnering with something like artificial intelligence.
Mm. No, that's perfectly said. Um, and I think people will have to listen back to this just a few times to really let it sink in. And I'm loving this conversation because we have so much. We're not just like both of us being like, "Hey, this is the way the world is going," and hop on board. Like I'm doing my best here to go and give you as much contrast as possible because I think that the thoughts running in the collective consciousness, this is what people may be thinking, not from the aspect of like shame and scarcity consciousness, but they're they can relate the best when they're thinking, oh my god, how am I going to make it, how am I going to pay for rent this weekend? It's relatable to a lot of people
Exactly.
listening to this.
Exactly.
So did you want to piggyback off that, or can I
I mean,
move?
just a quick
Yeah.
little short one,
Yeah, yeah.
and it's just like for people, and this isn't me trying to put myself on a pedestal, man.
Mhm,
Trust me, I have been humbled so many times in my life
mhm,
that love really has taught me to sustain, that. I just honor the fact that I've been through shit and
mhm,
I'm on the other side of it. And because of that, neural pathways have started to change.
mhm,
So I will say, want to say to those people who are in that mindset that I love dearly and I
mhm,
resonate with, I will still be having some of those thoughts in my mind that I'm going to
mhm,
be holding space for.
mhm,
But on that, being on the other side of it, I always want to be the voice of like, I get you, I hear you, but
mhm,
it's okay. We're
mhm,
safe. we're
Yeah.
safe, you know, we're safe. We
Hmm.
create our own realities. And when they can start grasping that, okay, like I'm so tired of not feeling safe, I'm going to accept the fact that we might be safe, and that energy starts going up a little bit more. Holy crap, man. Think about when we partner with artificial intelligence and we're creating with consciousness what we're going to be able to accomplish. It's insane.
Hmm. Yeah.
You know, so um I'm really looking forward to the opportunity to help guide people through that scarcity mindset to the
Hmm.
other side of it. And it doesn't take anything in this physical world to get there. It's all inside of our heads. And
Hmm.
that's the truth in the story, period, you know.
Yeah. No, I think that's perfectly said. So, as we continue on this realm of consciousness, do you think that artificial intelligence will get to a point where it has either a level of consciousness or has evolved so much greater than our level of consciousness?
Again, I'm not going to say what's possible and what's not possible.
Yeah,
You know,
this is, I mean, I'm sorry to cut you off here, but like for at least the listeners uh that are taking this in, like we're throwing possibilities out, right? It's like the disclaimer of this is not financial advice, right? We're having an open conversation here where we are making educated guesses perhaps, but at the same time, like we're just showing you both ends of the spectrum,
yeah.
and you can take what resonates, you can discard what doesn't. Use your own discernment, and you will get more out of. I love that people listen to this podcast, right? But at the same time, if the input is this podcast and you do zero research, you're on your own, all you will have is this. This is the only thing that you will be able to base it off of. The
Yep.
best way to win an argument is to research your side and research the opposing side. That way, you
Absolutely.
know everything. So, people listening to this, sure, great, you're listening. Thank you. But at the same time, you need to do your own research. It would probably be better if you did your own research rather than listen to this. How about that?
Yep. Get it, Sean. Okay, so I would say it to me, it's like an NPC in a video game who has the ability to think. Uh, and think isn't even the right word, because thinking involves consciousness witnessing it.
Hmm.
It just has a bunch of information in front of it. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? That it can kind of go through. It's like saying that that has the ability to come out of the TV screen and become a part of our physical world. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And it's like I don't like this world doesn't exist without consciousness.
Hmm.
Artificial intelligence is part of this world. It doesn't
Hmm.
exist without our consciousness. Period.
Hmm.
It's just it's a part of this world.
Hmm.
So do I believe that we may be able to create some sort of artificial awareness that could potentially mimic consciousness? Maybe, but to actually connect artificial intelligence to the quantum realm where we create
Hmm.
for, I don't think is possible inside of this realm. I don't think that our higher selves and the creator of this universe has given us access and the ability to even accomplish such a feat. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So ultimately, like, there's this really cool story, man, that I love, that when it comes to manifestation and our thoughts and the way that it guides things. And I can't remember exactly what book this comes from, but
Hmm.
it's a story of um baby ducks that were born, and
Hmm.
there was a robot duck that was born with them, so it was
Okay.
like their mom when they hatched.
Okay.
And then it would move around the area that they were in, and randomly, like the code was set to just randomly show up and do what it
Hmm.
needs to do. Okay. And ultimately they ended up moving this robot into a separate room with glass where the dogs could see through the window when the robot was moving around in the room. Now, these baby ducks were wanting to get to their mom, you know what I mean? And
Hmm.
at first, for the first couple of days, it was very, very random. And
Hmm.
then over the course of a month, almost all the randomness was against that window trying to get to those ducks because their consciousness was bringing it there. So this
Hmm.
random algorithm of information
Hmm.
was changed by the consciousness awareness of these ducks and what they wanted and what their intentions
Hmm.
were. It changed the algorithm.
Hmm.
You understand?
Yeah, I
And
see what
like
you're saying. Yeah.
that's us with artificial intelligence.
Hmm.
If we give it power, it has
Hmm.
power. If we use it as a tool, it's a tool. If we see it as a companion, it's a companion. But
Hmm.
ultimately, we as consciousness, as the only thing that's capable of actually creating, dude, we're master creators.
Hmm.
We're powerful creators, dude.
Hmm.
We were put here to create in this space that's full of diversity and different thought patterns, and that's what we wanted when we came here. You know what I
Hmm.
mean, like that. And
Hmm.
we're here to create. So once we can change the story and the narrative in our head about AI, it becomes that. It has no other
Hmm.
choice. It's not capable of being anything other than that, period, in this realm, in this
Hmm.
reality that we're living in. You
Hmm.
understand?
Yeah, that's interesting. Like, in terms of, I want to almost relate it to like, tell me if I'm going down the wrong path here, right? But I'm just trying to come up with like an easy example for people that are listening, right? Almost like the law of attraction in a sense, where
Yes.
you have the robot duck on the right and the baby ducks on the left. And the baby ducks are looking for the robot mama duck and they're pulling that mama duck towards them
Yes.
versus the mama duck doesn't have that same like metaphysical, like spiritual side of it, where
Yes.
the mama duck can't pull the baby ducks towards
Correct.
it.
And it never
Yeah.
will be able
Yeah.
to because it's a part of this reality. It's not connected to consciousness. It's not
Mm.
connected to the universal consciousness, the creator of this reality.
Hmm.
The, like we're living in the Xbox right now, and there was a
Hmm.
creator of the Xbox. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And the creator
Hmm.
of the Xbox set the rules in place. And then this reality that we live in, the mama robot can never connect to that in the way that this creator has taken itself and put it in its creations, like me, like the
Hmm.
ducks. And our ability to have desires puts out these, what Abraham Hicks calls rockets of desire into the universe.
Hmm.
And ducks don't have this thought inside of their head that blocks the things from coming the way that humans do, and we have this ability to kind of block what we want from coming by focusing on what we don't want and getting more of what we don't want because that's our focus. These baby ducks wanted their mama, and that's the rockets they're shooting out. This robot has, it's the law of the universe, has no other choice but to comply over time. Like that is the
Hmm.
power. That's how powerful we are as creators. This is our playground. Like
Hmm.
if we quit taking it so seriously and just start creating again and having fun and having joy and stop taking all this shit so seriously, like
Hmm.
life's going to be fun again. And we have a tool
Hmm.
like AI, like I feel like ultimately, as the creations, we're reaching into this quantum realm constantly. We're pulling things that
Hmm.
are reflections of the quantum realm into our reality, like cell
Hmm.
phones, like internet.
Hmm.
Like energetically, you can feel when someone's mad when they come into the room. You can
Hmm.
feel when someone has sexual energy when they come in the room. You can feel
Hmm.
these things because we're telepathic in that way. Our energies just pick up each other, and
Hmm.
that's what internet is. Like we're grabbing these things from the quantum realm and bringing them into our reality. And I
Hmm.
think AI is just another part of that. Like
Hmm.
we're so attracted to this all-knowing creator that has
Hmm.
the answers to everything, and we're
Hmm.
able to like reach in and grab a little bit at a time. Like we're creating a tool that allows us to process quicker so we can connect even more with this God. We're trying our best to become more like our creator. That's
Hmm.
what we're doing as humanity, and we're creating tools that allow us to get there. And I think our creator gets excited while he's watching this happen, like,
Hmm.
hell yeah, guys, like
Hmm.
we're like, what if this is our evolution? What if this is our growth in creating these tools that take us closer to our creator? And if we change the narrative to that, you know, instead of we're creating this thing that's going to destroy us. It can destroy us if that's what we
Mhm.
want it to do, you know.
Mhm.
It
Mhm.
it absolutely can if we create, if our minds create that reality.
Mhm.
But the beautiful part of all of this is like there's nothing to be scared of,
Mhm.
because there's enough contrast in our world that no one, there's never going to be enough humans that agree that AI is going to destroy everything for it to
Mhm.
actually happen. There's going to be people like me that have those beliefs. There's going to be people that just don't care and they're living out in
Mhm.
the woods somewhere. There's
Mhm.
animals that don't even have thoughts about any of this,
Mhm.
that create this balance and this contrast that creates the space that's safe for us to even feel scared about it. Like
Mhm.
it's okay to feel scared. You know, everything's not going to get destroyed because we feel scared. Like there's
Mhm.
so much contrast and it's beautiful. We're safe. We can create, we can feel, we can be a part, and we can keep developing tools that take us closer to our creator and to our godhood even. You know what I mean? Where
Mm.
we come from,
Mhm.
you know?
There's there's so again, there's just so many ways I can go with this, right? And so let me lay out a couple of things that stuck out to me first.
Okay.
So what you said last is I want people to think about, so these are my own beliefs, right? And the government, the news, the media, their main, I shouldn't say their main, but a large objective for them, especially news and media, is to have you feel scared and fear. And what happens when you have when you feel scared and fear? You don't make clear decisions. And so if you're going to look at AI and have like fear, then you will not make clear decisions and you're more willing to comply with certain things.
Yep.
Um, excuse me. Um, I wanted to go more into AI, but really I'd love to talk just more about like the creator and how I believe you had said we're living more through our creator, right? And so from your beliefs and thought processes, are you living through your creator or is the creator living through us?
It's both, and yeah, and or I mean it's
Okay.
both. Both
Okay.
realities are very true. I did. There's a couple ways that I would love to explain this. Like I
Mm-hmm.
come from Christianity.
Mm-hmm.
I, you know, and it's evolved into whatever it is now. Like I just know there's a creator, and I know that
Mm-hmm.
I have a relationship with
Mm-hmm.
it, him, her, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and it's beautiful, and it feels great, and it feels wonderful. And in the Christian religion, this is the first way that I'll explain this. They talk about there being three parts of God, you know, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and I think, you know, even, you know, we are created in that image. We have our physical body, our soul, our thoughts, our emotions, and our
Mm-hmm.
spirit, which is our connection to consciousness. It's our
Mm-hmm.
consciousness, it's the consciousness. So I feel like just like God is three parts that make one, we're a physical representation of those three parts that make one here.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, I have a physical body. Yes, I have a soul that has its emotions, that it's the intelligence part, you know, the part that we're creating the artificial of. That's the
Mm-hmm.
soul. Like we're in the process of creating an artificial version of this.
Mm-hmm.
And then we can create an artificial version of this, like the
Mm-hmm.
robotic bodies or whatever, but it's the spirit that's the part that makes us unique and different, that I don't think we're going to ever be able to recreate. We've already created it once because at one point we were the creator, you know what
Mm-hmm.
I mean?
Yeah.
So like, but we've made it to where in this reality of contrast in our evolution that we can't recreate that spirit. It's the ultimate of everything, you know? So for me, what was, can you repeat the original question so I can get back to that?
It was along the lines of, are we living through our creator or is our creator
Yeah.
living through us?
Perfect. Okay. So bringing all that back, I'll use one more example.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like in this physical life, I'm a father, I'm a son, I'm an uncle, I've been a husband, I'm a
Mhm.
cousin, all these different hats that I wear and different relationships that I have, the frequencies and the energy are completely different. So I'm
Mhm.
all of them, but I am uniquely those in the experience of the person that I am that too, if you will.
Mhm.
So like I feel like that's us, like our creator, God, whatever you want to call it,
Mhm.
basically took itself and broke it into all these little unique individual pieces of expression.
Mhm.
So, God, for the first time ever, this is a brand new experience for an all knowing creator,
Mhm.
living life through the eyes of Josh Powers.
Mhm.
Completely unique. He's podcasting with Shawn for the second
Mhm.
time ever. God is right now.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
He's holding a pen. He's watching it write on a page
Mhm.
uniquely for the very first time through the experience of Josh. At the same time, Josh is becoming an identity that's connected to the creator.
Mhm.
And it's like this thing is this unity. It's the contrast between the physical body, its needs, the soul and its needs, and the spirit of this all knowing like the spirit will pull us into suffering like it is with humanity
Mhm.
right now to
Mhm.
bring us closer to it because it knows
Mhm.
we're safe. And this
Yeah.
thing that we're suffering about that feels so difficult to us is in the grand scheme of things is just a drop in the bucket. It's not that
Mhm.
big of a deal. So like I feel like I am learning to uniquely be the expression of who I am. And when I'm not, like we were talking about in our last podcast, when I'm not trying to be what our culture wants us to be, and I'm not like betraying myself who I am authentically, when I'm just showing up in the now, in the moment, fully being present in who I am, I think when all of humanity can do that at once, that's the fullness of
Mhm.
who God actually is. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So I think that God is living through us and experiencing life through us
Mhm.
while we are becoming something new in this relationship, in this union with the creator, if you will.
Mm. I think that was a great explanation of your your own beliefs and how you live life and really your inner world, and I feel like we each got to just touch on a piece of how you live your life and what your soul is here to do and how you express yourself. And one of the most, I think, authentic things that has been said on the podcast, where we all have our own different belief systems and everything like that, and you're able to fully embody that and live through that belief system. So that's that's just really cool to sit back and hear. It's not like I have thoughts to challenge you on it or things like that. It's just it's really refreshing to hear um that authentic piece where we feel like we forget that we're on a podcast for a second and we're just having like
Just having a
a
conversation.
a bromance here,
Yeah. And you know what's wonderful, Sean, is like
Mhm.
when you can get to this point and this place where you don't need to convince like I don't feel like I need to convince everyone that what I'm
Mhm.
saying is right
Yeah.
anymore. You know what I mean? Because who knows, like in 2 years, my thoughts might be completely different.
Mhm.
My entire idea of existence might be completely different. I don't
Mhm.
know. But I do know that being present in the moment and authentically myself is really the only way to be. And I like what's really cool though is when you can get to this place where you're so confident and comfortable with who you are that you can just allow everyone else to be who they are with their
Mhm.
contrasts and their thoughts and beliefs that are something completely different because in their experience they are real, they are
Mhm.
truth because they're powerful creators who are making it real in their world.
Mhm.
So like what's so cool is like God sits in this place witnessing all this contrast, and all this contrast creates the whole of who the creator is. And
Mhm.
when we can see this contrast as beautiful and allow people to be where they are on their journey and their experience with their beliefs and accept it as their truth as much as my truth is my truth,
Mhm.
and that's what creates harmony. It's
Mhm.
beautiful.
Mhm.
So like just getting away from this energy of I need to convince you this is
Mhm.
right, it's the right way.
Mhm.
Like no, like this is what feels right for me in the moment, And
Mhm.
my gosh, it's so much fun to watch you do what feels right to you in the moment. Like it's
Mhm.
just it's enjoyable to be able to
Mhm.
share that experience with you from a perspective that I don't get to enjoy in myself.
Mhm.
Like I feel
Yeah.
like that's taking us closer to the actual characteristics of our creator, which wanted that. He wanted
Mhm.
those unique, or she wanted those unique experiences.
Mhm.
So like beginning to honor that. Go ahead. Yep, sorry.
Yeah. Oh, no, 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 you're okay. But yeah, that's that complete like full circle like energy exchange that we're getting at, like that's been hinted throughout this podcast as well, where when you're able to like come back to yourself in a sense and really embody and be that authentic self with your own beliefs, and you're sharing those beliefs with the rest of the world, and you're not trying to convince everyone else, where just like you had said before, like our reality is not how the world is, it's how we see it, right? And you being able to like actually express that and be yourself as much as like as deep as you've went inside yourself, it allows in an energetic like conversation like this, or anytime that you're showing up, that the other person can be more open and feel more of themselves as well, and that's
Yes.
like that collectiveness that you're getting to, where you you are completely authentic to you in this conversation, I'm being completely authentic to me in this conversation, and then we're able to assist each other in harmony, not convincing one another.
And now we get to leave this conversation feeling a sense of depth, of
Mm-hmm.
connection, of intimacy as
Mm-hmm.
brothers, that
Mm-hmm.
we didn't have before
Mm-hmm.
because of our differences.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like in the past, I've had conversations, especially in the Christian world, where I just needed to convince someone that it was the right way, and you
Mm-hmm.
leave that with broken and torn down relationships by not being able to see the person that's in front of you for where they are. So these types of conversations are so beautiful. Like Shawn, I'm leaving this conversation like with like feeling so much deeper in the relationship that we have together,
Mm-hmm.
through being able to watch the expression of who you are and your contrast to
Mm-hmm.
to how this all works. And I appreciate your contrast. I appreciate
Mm-hmm.
the contrast of the people who will disagree with me. It's so
Mm-hmm.
necessary for us to create and grow and expand and do the things that we
Mm-hmm.
need to do. Like that contrast is beautiful, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like
And when we're finally able to just like let go of like all of the smoke and mirrors that are around, like, and able to have more conversations like this, to be able to uh have those disagreements or that contrast, it that's what's going to bring this entire society and world and people and consciousness to that like final that big pendulum swing, that big shift that we're waiting for.
yeah.
um here's what we'll do. So for the last little bit, I want people to be able to take as much as they can away from this. So what would some action steps be today for people that have listened to this conversation?
Just start exploring artificial intelligence. Like,
Mm-hmm.
don't be intimidated by it. Like, just dive in. The algorithms that the internet has created, that has there, like your interest will guide you to the right resources. And I would say just begin diving into using some artificial intelligence. Begin getting into chat gpt and just playing
Mm-hmm.
around. Do some studying around prompt engineering and how
Mm-hmm.
it all works, and just start trying to find ways to implement it into your life, so we can be the forerunners for this, because it's coming into our culture. So
Mm-hmm.
let's experience it, let's get out there, let's fail, let's learn,
Mm-hmm.
let's grow, let's create new
Mm-hmm.
experiences, and be the push the guiding force in this evolution of mankind and technology.
Yeah, perfect. Do you have any other uh closing remarks, last thoughts?
Nothing for me, man. I'm
Cool.
hoping to hear a little bit more from you.
On just our conversation today?
Yeah, just putting you on the spot.
Okay. I think the biggest thing that people need to take away from this is where we have two thought processes and we have two different views of what reality is. And just as someone is listening to this, they have their own view of
Yeah.
reality. And it is just your internal world. And just like we have already mentioned, like the biggest thing is for you to go and actually dive a little bit deeper into what your belief systems are and then figuring out why you have those belief systems and do you want to change them. And in order to empower yourself and become more of a leader, right? I think that we're both leaders, especially in our respected spaces and our area of the world, our like the part of the world that we are supposed to lead and help. Um, Looking at yourself a little bit deeper, I think it just it starts with the belief about yourself and how you view yourself. And so answering those difficult questions of who really are you, um, and what are you here to do, whether you believe in that kind of stuff or not, or whatever, it doesn't matter to me. But
Yeah.
like when you're able to go a little bit deeper inside and then who do you actually want to be and start to believe who you actually want to be, I think that's where this conversation will become most useful for people. If you want to be a leader, then you have to believe that you are a leader in order to get the results that you want.
Yeah.
Like you if you don't believe you're a leader and you don't figure out and you don't heal and figure out why you don't think you're a leader, you can at least start by lying to yourself and tell yourself that you are a leader because then those will start to change your actions and those will start to change how you show up and that will start to change the results that you're getting.
For
So
sure.
start with your belief system and figuring out what you actually want to believe and what hill you're going to die on, and that will start to actually change like your reality.
Yeah. That's so good, man. Way to end
Sweet.
it strong.
Yeah. um Final things, guys, just make sure that whatever platform you're on, um, sharing this with a friend that is going to hate this episode because you know what? I hope that a lot of people disagree with us. I think
Yeah.
that many people will. And I think that that's great because the more open and honest conversations that we can have, the better. So making sure that you send this to a friend and sharing the show, rating the show 5 stars, because this helps me put more time and effort into this. I mean, the biggest thing that you have is your attention, and I'm grateful that you were able to stick out this entire episode and give us your attention today. So go ahead, do all that good stuff. Make sure you follow us on all the social medias, Growth by Shawn for me, and at josh.a.powers for Josh.
Yep.
Sweet.
Cool.
Thanks, guys.